Okay, let's try that again. So I'm having a little bit of some technical difficulties. That's why I'm running a little bit behind. I'm hoping that I don't have any hangups because I had a little bit of trouble getting all of this going. I got it, Stacy. I realized very quickly that my thing was muted. Okay, so let me know, you guys, if there's any like glitches coming through on your end that I need to know about before I get started. I can tell, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I can tell there's a lag between what I'm saying and what you're seeing, which is a little weird for me. However, if you don't notice it on your end, then it's not a problem. Let's see here. Move you guys just a little bit. Okay, so I don't want to dilly-dally too much. I want to get right into it. But I'm going to go over what we're using and kind of what we're going to be doing. And then we'll do it. So I am using, for this particular tutorial, if you guys have been in the Feather Bear Bling Facebook group, then you know that I did a no water storyboard tumbler where we glittered the inside and then you epoxy the outside, so you don't have to put any epoxy over your glitter because it's encased. So we're kind of going to be doing that again today. Hey. So what I'm going to be using is a, I think you guys can see this, 20-ounce skinny storyboard. It's a hog. They're from the Stainless Steel Depot. They come wrapped up in plastic. There's bubble wrap in the box. And it's basically what this is it's stainless steel inside and it's got an acrylic outer shell. So I'm going to show you how you take them apart so that you'll know with this piece that we're working with today, you'll know like how I got there. So I take the lid off. It just pops off. The bottom unscrews. And with this particular style, it does come with a silicone straw that's all curled up in the bottom there. So you can actually remove that. Make sure you take it out because you're not going to be able to unscrew this again when we're done. Take the papers out that are on the inside. These are used, you can use them as a template to cut if you want to put something inside of there. You can have your kids draw on them for good Father's Day, Mother's Day gifts, things like that. So I mean, these are useful, but I don't need them for what we're doing. Once you've unscrewed the bottom portion, which it screws right into that, then you kind of just have to wiggle it loose. Gotta kind of get at it, but you wiggle it loose and it pops off from the top. So this is the acrylic sleeve that goes around the outside. And since I'm not wearing gloves, I should be wearing gloves. Since I'm not wearing gloves, that's going to be all fingerprinty, but the other ones I wore gloves when I dismantled them. So then you're left with this piece here. What I did with this piece is I sanded, cleaned, and then I painted it white. So if you are going to paint these guys, then make sure that you tape off your little rim right here. See if I can give you a better view of that. So this little rim is what the acrylic sleeve goes up inside of. If you don't tape this off prior to painting, it's way more of a beast to clean it up afterwards. So just go ahead and do that beforehand. Okay, so now that you know the components of what we're using, hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and get into the gist of it. Let me flip you guys around here. Okay, so this is the insert I was just showing you. I did not tape off my top. This is the third one that I made for this video's sake. So by the time I was to this one, I was kind of over it. So don't do what I did. You guys tape your tops off. It's way easier. I have it already on my turner here ready to go. And then I have all of my glitter colors, which I'll show you guys each one as we go. I'm going to be using medium viscosity. I know you guys don't judge my bottle. It's all crinkly, but the medium viscosity artist resin from Counterculture DIY. Usually when I'm applying the glitter on and I'm using the epoxy as an adhesive, I'll use the fast set, but because I'm using the medium viscosity on the next part that I'm going to show you, I'm just going to use it all for this. So typically I would use fast set for this step, but right now I am using the medium viscosity. If you guys have any questions about that, you'll know what I'm using and why. So I am going to measure out my epoxy. Put my little cup there. These little guys, I'm not going to need very much because I'm using it as an adhesive. Go ahead and get this in there. That's way more than I'm going to need. You only need about a tablespoon, if that, total to use it as an adhesive, but I always over pour. Hey, hey, I see you guys. Okay, so I'm going to dump both of those two parts that I just did into this cup here and mix them together. I'm trying to make sure that I scrape this and get every single bit that I can out of it so I don't end up with unequal parts mixed together, because we all know what happens if your epoxy amounts are not equal. Because I am also streaming this live to YouTube, I just want to put it out there, my little disclaimer, that I do recommend that you research and wear appropriate PPE while you're working with resin. A lot of you will notice that I am not wearing a mask for tutorial's sake. I just cannot tell you what I'm doing with a respirator on. So if you are going to be working with resin, wherever it may be, proper ventilation, proper PPE, please. Hello. Okay, I'm just going to get this mixed up really quick. Make sure I get the little bit that got in the little cup crevice there. Get that out of there. And then I do take my stick and I go right around the inside edge of the cup down here to make sure that it's completely incorporated together and there's no little bits hiding in the corners. Good thorough mix on the resin makes sure that it will cure properly. Okay. Hello in Australia. Woo! It's very warm in here and my glove does not want to go on my hand. Okay, let's get moving on this. Get this epoxy down so we can get to the glitter. And I'll show you how I get the epoxy underneath this rim in just a second. I know it's going to go in and out of focus. Just bear with me while I'm dumping the epoxy on. If If you guys notice, I did not take the epoxy all the way over the bottom edge. I'm just going right to the bottom of the cup. I'm going to just smooth this over until I have the whole cup with a good coating on it. Okay, now that I've smoothed it over the entire cup, I am going to take my popsicle stick and I'm going to just kind of move some of that up. I actually need to get it a little closer up here, but I'm not left-handed, so I'm swiping some of that epoxy up towards the top of the cup without getting too close to that rim. Again, you guys can tape that rim off and it's not quite as much fuss. Okay, so I'm going to go in with my popsicle stick and I have my little cup of resin here, get a little bit on the end of the stick, and then I'm going to just use the stick to go right up underneath that little rim there. Just kind of work the epoxy up. It doesn't have to go all the way because you're not going to see up inside. So I'm just using the stick to move it to where it's right at where that rim starts. It does not have to be perfect. Kind of an excess of epoxy there, so I'm going to move that around. And as it passes one more time, I'm just going to go through and make sure that I have a nice little coating all the way up to where that rim starts. It's just easier to get a popsicle stick in there than it is to try to work your fingers up there. You can also use a silicone tool or the little stainless spatulas, like whatever tool works best for you. I just tend to use a lot of popsicle sticks. Okay, once you have your top where you need it to be, then you go to the bottom, and I literally just kind of take my finger and just work a little bit of epoxy over it. And I know you cannot see the very bottom of this, but I'll show you in just a second on the other cup where I take the epoxy to, because you do not want to epoxy over the threads. So as soon as I get this little coating on here, just make sure you get that corner there, that bevel. Make sure you get that coated really well. Okay, gloves off. So what I did there is I took the epoxy just on this part right here. I didn't do anything on this, okay? So just to right here is where I ran the epoxy to. I'm gonna move this epoxy cup out of the way. Two, three, four, five, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I'm going to put one paper down to act as a buffer between any dripped epoxy, and then I'm going to put some papers down to catch the glitter. Alrighty, so because I'm wanting to create a sunset on the top part and then what looks like water on the bottom, keep that in mind when you're applying your glitter, how much space you're going to need for your colors. So for the sunset part, these aren't all the colors in the collection. I couldn't possibly incorporate all of them because there's so many, but these are the ones that I chose for this design. So we have St. Lucia, which is the really, really bright, vivid pink. And then we're going to go Aruba. It's also a pink, but it's more of a coral pink. Hawaii is the coral, like super duper pretty. And then Barbados, which is a really gorgeous bright orange. It's like a yellow orange. It's super bright. Okay. So I'm starting with St. Lucia, I can't even say it. These are size mixes, you guys. So anytime I go to use this type of glitter, even if I just use it, I always shake it up just so that all of those sizes are incorporated. And then I do this style of cup with my fingers. I do not dump directly onto the cup because I need to be able to control where the glitter falls. So I'm going to go in and pinch, and then I'm just going to go in right here and create my first line of color. And I'm intentionally going really close up here so that extra glitter fallout goes right up underneath where we took that epoxy. So once I have my first little line of color there, you guys have seen me do an ombre before, so you know where this is going. I get my color block in. And then I'll go through and just lightly sprinkle right below it so that there's a little spattering of that glitter to lead into the next color. So just little teeny tiny bits. Looks like you guys can see this okay, which is good. I really take my time when I'm trying to blend colors together. No reason to rush it. Okay, so that was the St. Lucia. The next color down is going to be Aruba, which is this super hot pink, got a slight coral tinge to it. I was going to change my paper between all of these, but I'm not going to because I have a plan for the mix. So I'm not going to change the paper. Shaking this guy up. Same thing. I'm going to go in and I'm going to pinch right about where I want my color to be. Notice there's a little bit of a gap here. That's okay. This is so that I have a guide for where the color starts and stops. It just makes more sense to me when I'm doing it if I like have my stopping point of where the concentration goes, and then I blend on either side of it, and I don't end up with a color blend that has more or less of each color. I can keep it pretty even, if that makes sense. Once I have that section there, then I'll go back and lightly sprinkle in between to fill in any gaps between the two colors. And then on the other side as well, light sprinkles to blend into the next color. And I don't have a lot of light on this cup because I did not want it to be washed out. So don't let that fool you as far as the sparkle goes on these. The sparkle is ridiculous. Okay, the next color for the sunset part is Hawaii. Shake it. Hawaii is the coral. And I'm going to speed this up. You guys have seen me take that part really slow, so I'm going to speed this up. Same thing, I'm blocking in. I already have the two colors blended together here because I went lightly with the other one, so I can just throw my little line in there and call it good. And I'm working from behind this cup. Can you guys see, like, I'm working on it upside down? So excuse me if it looks awkward, but I've never glittered a cup from behind it before. I'm always standing in front of it, if that makes sense. Okay, so that was Hawaii. And now Barbados. Going right in with that. And I'm just going to do a light sprinkle where they meet because I didn't do a blend. And then I'm going to go right underneath it and do my concentration. So you guys can see I didn't bring Hawaii down because I want this color to be more concentrated. So I want to lay it first and then blend the Hawaii into it. If that makes any sense at all, I hope it does. Now I'm not going to do on the bottom half of this, I'm not going to blend it out like I was when I was mixing these guys together because this is where the water starts. I don't want this color to blend into the water. I want there to be a pretty sharp line so that it shows separation between the two. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of this to blend the two together. Some of these places. And I'm just going to backtrack with my colors really quick because I'm not using fast set. I have a little bit more working time. So this is Hawaii. This is the one that was right above Barbados, the orange. I'm just going to sprinkle some more of that in. As it turns and as the epoxy starts kind of soaking into the glitter and moving around, it likes to slide apart. So going back over it like this is going to guarantee that you get all your little spots filled. Okay. Aruba, that was the one that was here. Just roughly sprinkling this on now because we already have our colors blocked in. So this is literally what I'm sprinkling on now is only going to stick in like little tiny bits of places where there's epoxy showing. And then St. Lucia. Again, right at the very top. Quickly, quickly. So for the sunset part, we went side to side with our lines. Move those aside. Give this a tap. And now I am going to change the paper. Isn't that pretty though? You can see the blend. So good. It's like wings. I knew that was going to happen. That's why I have paper towels. For the water portion, we're going to use the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Bali. And instead of going this direction, I'm going to alternate and sporadically put these on in a random pattern, a more random application. So I'm going to start with the Bahamas. It'll make sense when I start doing it. So this is the Bahamas. It's a gorgeous kind of a purpley blue. Not completely purple, not completely blue. Like it does give off a little bit more purple vibes, but there's a blue shift to it that's really pretty. So I'm going to go in with this and I'm going to do that concentrated application that I was showing where you go really close up. And I'm going to kind of just really randomly apply this color. Going in close, kind of going back and forth so that I get some longer areas. Now I'm going to go in with Jamaica. Jamaica, I don't even know how to explain this color. It's like dark green, rose gold, little bit of gold, little bit of blue. It's everything. It's all the colors. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just go in really sporadically. And then the last one is Bali, which is the lush green. You guys will notice there's a lot of space that hasn't been filled, and I left it like that so that I have room to put all the colors that I'm wanting, and then go back over if need be and add more of something. Like if I want to put more blue in, I have room for that. You guys can see the line there where the orange stops and then the watercolors start. That's what I was wanting because we're not going to actually epoxy over this. This is going to be as is. It's going to be left just the way that it is. So I'm going back with the Bahamas, the blue purple color, and I'm just going to sprinkle some of that in again. Get it on the bottom there. And doing all the different colors around like this for the water party is just going to give you a little bit of a dimensional feeling rather than it just being like an ombre of striped color all the way down. This is Jamaica again. I always go over it twice with the glitter, sometimes more. Kind of just sporadically dropping it where I noticed that it was dropped before. Okay. So let me get these glitters out of the way. So that is how I did the application process. Let me move this because it'll be easier for you to see what's going on if there's a white background. So you guys can see there, I know some of this is sticking up. You can go through and just lightly tap it down. Keep an eye on it as it's spinning. You don't really have to tap it down, but because it doesn't have to be smooth. We're not epoxying over this, but sometimes it's nice to get rid of these like pieces that are really sticking up. So you can just tap those guys down. Really take a good look at it while it's curing. Make sure that you don't need to, sprinkle any more color or whatever. Just watch it while it's curing. If you need to add to it or whatever, then you'll go ahead and do that before it's done curing. And then once it's done curing, I got to swap these out. So hang tight. Give me 1 second. I got to make sure that I don't bump anything when I do this. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, so once it's done curing this outside shell here, you guys can still see that. That's good. So once it's done curing, then you're going to reassemble your cup. As I showed you guys in the beginning, I disassembled it and showed you how it went. So you're going to put it all back together, make sure that it's screwed together nice and tight. And then what I've done is on this seal where it meets and this seal where it meets, where the acrylic comes together, I've taken the quick coat from Counterculture, which is a urethane, and I've done 3 coats of that over these seals. I know it's hard for you to see with the camera, but I did do 3 coats of the quick coat on the seals, and that's just to make sure that it's a really nice firm seal so that when I put epoxy over the top of it, I don't run into any issues with air bubbles. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to quickly mix up another batch of epoxy, and I'm going to show you guys how to add the little details on the outside layer. And then it's done, like the easiest beach cup ever. And because we're not epoxying over glitter, you don't have to do a bunch of layers. If you're going to add a decal, if you're wanting like a name on this, you would do that right now. Add it right to the acrylic. Phew. All right, I'm going to try to do this part quickly. Jagger is great. Great, great, great. I mean, he's a hot mess, but he's great. Sorry, you guys, I know the epoxy mixing part is painful. It's not my favorite to watch, I'll tell you that. Anytime I'm watching a video, I'm like, man, I wish there was like the live videos, like when you're doing YouTube and you're pre-editing them and everything, you can like speed that part up. But live videos, mixing epoxy is painful. Uh-oh, can't be forgetting what you were supposed to be doing. That's okay, but just chalk it up as being productive. You're being productive right now. Okay, so I am going to stir this a little more gently. I want to try to prevent as many air bubbles as I possibly can. Because this is going on acrylic, you don't want to do too much torching. You'll melt it. And I've made way too much epoxy, you guys. I do that every single time. But oh no. I wonder if that's, oh no, it wasn't, because that was chowder. The foxes are bold. Okay. So you guys can see there are bubbles in here, but not like you usually see my epoxy. I usually whip the crap out of my epoxy to the point to where it almost looks white. So this is good for me. But I'm really taking caution to make sure that I'm not excessively adding bubbles to it while still getting a thorough mix. Okay, I think we are totally mixed here. I don't see any more of the little waves in there from, you know, when you're first mixing up the two parts and you can kind of see, like, before they're incorporated, you can see little waves. That's not the right term, but I see it. I don't know if it's just me or if everybody sees the little waves. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to put it in a little side cup here, because we're going to be using the white snow. Focus. Come on, you can do it. Here. Okay, it's the white snow dispersion color from Counterculture DIY, and I'm not sure why it just doesn't want to be able to show you those little letters on there, but that's what we're going to be dyeing this little bit of epoxy with. It does not take very much at all. So I'm going to just kind of go in with my little stick here and mix that in. Alrighty. So I'm taking the clear epoxy and I'm going to just apply it to the entire thing. Normally I would have put a little piece of tape right here. One of the things that I forgot to do when I was prepping my cup. So it is in your best interest to tape off a line right here for your epoxy. So I'm just going to take this all the way up to the top edge, and then I'm going to take it all the way down to the bottom edge. You can still see that, right? Okay. So I'm going through and I'm smoothing right around the bottom edge of the cup here, and then all the way through the middle to make sure that we have full coverage. I have a whole section right here that didn't get epoxy. That's why I put so much on there. Okay, almost to the last step, you guys. Like, this is super, super, super quick. I mean, we're 41 minutes in, but you know what I mean by quick. When you're making cups like this, typically it's hours. Okay, once you're satisfied with your coat of epoxy, the only thing I am going to do is I'm going to hit it really quickly with a torch. Not very long at all. Like I said, it's acrylic. If you over torch it, you're going to melt what's underneath. Really quickly. And that's just to get rid of any little micro bubbles that may have remained on the cup. Okay. Looks pretty clear to me. The last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take that white dyed epoxy and then I have just a drinking straw, not too fancy. But I'm going to put on just little bits of this. You can always add more if you need to add more. Start out with a little bit. I'm going to hit this with my torch and then blow with the straw. I apologize, you guys. I gotta get this hair up before I get my hair tangled in my cup, because that would be a bad deal. Okay, so once you have the first layer of white, once you have it how you want it to look, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually take a little bit of this and I'm going to concentrate the white a little bit more and add a little bit more. Okay. Actually, I'll just put it in there. That'll be easier. I'm just going to pour a little, so you guys can see here. Hopefully you can see. Adding more of the white in there so that I can have more of an opaque coloring to it, a more solid white. Just make sure you mix it up really well. Okay, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to repeat the same exact process. I'm going to try to do it exactly where I did the other ones. This will make more sense, I promise you guys. Okay, same thing. Go in and blow that around with the way you want it to look. So what you're going to end up with down here is all of your ocean foam, all of your little wave designs. And you can add more of this, you can do less of this, whatever floats your boat, whatever you decide is best for you. I'm going to kind of add in just a little bit here so that I can have some kind of what looks like maybe some choppiness in the water. And from this center point here where the sunset comes in, everything gets worked downwards. The beautiful thing about these dispersion colors is once you hit them with heat, it does create cells. So it's going to kind of break apart a little bit and have all these little cells in it that actually look like ocean foam. You just don't want to overheat because then that's going to make it run. So just a quick burst. And then you're going to, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I'll have to post a video after the fact and show you all the little wispies and cells in there. Okay, so that is the water part down below. If you want, you can come up here. I would leave yourself a good separation, but you can come up here and maybe create some clouds. I used to do a total beach cup with dyes, which didn't have any glitter at all. And you can actually go in and make little clouds up top. You just want to make sure that you separate them enough to where it looks like a cloud. If you guys want, I can show you kind of what that would look like. So you want to make sure that you don't have a ton of the dyed epoxy on here. You just want a little bit. And then you kind of want to pounce a little bit in. I'm going to wait for that to come back around. I'm just getting a little teeny tiny bit on there. This is going to take a second because you have to keep waiting for it to come back around. But what you do is you kind of just pounce it in there until you get that cloud shape that you're wanting, and you do not hit it with heat. Don't touch the clouds with heat. Otherwise, it's just going to look like all of this bottom ocean part up in the sky, which won't make any sense. Kind of go out a little bit on each side. just like that. Make little clouds. I'm going to make another one right here. And as long as you're taking your time as it comes around, you work on each part. As the cup rotates, then it'll be fine. See, look, we have a little cloud right there. Going up, same thing. I like to go up and kind of out each side. Give it a little bit of width across the bottom. To me, that is what looks most like a cloud. I'm going to do a little fluffy one right here. Again, on the clouds, you guys do not hit them with heat or they will lose their entire shape. Okay, so I'm going to leave this guy alone now. I think covered everything. Let me see if I can get the light. Get a little bit more light on it. Not really. Can you guys see that okay? Okay, so obviously you guys, this is going to be up for interpretation. Like you can do any variation of this that works best for you. These are just little techniques and little things that I've come to learn over time that work well. Like, and you see the little clouds, like they're so cute. And I intentionally did the yellow down here because the sun was setting to the water. That's going to be like the brightest part of the sky. So that, that's where my train of thought came from there. But obviously you can do this however you see fit. But once this cures, it's done. Like, boom. Super quick. Okay, so what I will do, let me switch you around here. So what I'll do is I will post this to the group after it cures. That way I can move it in different lighting and get a better view of it. So you guys can see all the details that are on it. Now, hopefully this kind of jumped a little bit of inspiration for you to step outside of the box with different types of cups and create things in different types of ways. Kind of take a different, hi Mindy, take a different approach to some of this popular stuff that's going around. Let me see here, make sure I didn't miss anything important before I end this. Thank you, Patty. All right, guys, it doesn't look like I missed anything that I need to address. So I'm going to call it on this one. Thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you guys got something from that. So let me know in the comments if there's something else that you are wanting to see that maybe pertains to this style, because I can totally come back and do some other things with these style of cups. And otherwise, we will be back soon with some other fun stuff. Thanks, sis. All right, guys. Bye.